The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor the exact moment my husband's hand connected with my face. But what happened in the next 72 hours? Let's just say he went from slapping me to begging me in front of 200 guests. If you think you know where the story is going, you're wrong. My name is Charlotte, and 3 days ago, I was the perfect corporate wife. Designer dresses, charity galas, and a smile that could charm investors into million-dollar deals. Tonight, I'm something entirely different. Tonight, I'm the woman who just destroyed her husband's entire world with nothing but a PowerPoint presentation and a room full of witnesses. But let me take you back to where it all began, Christmas Eve, 2023, at the most exclusive party in Manhattan. Mini cliffhanger. Little did I know, this would be the last night I'd ever pretend to be the obedient wife. The Pemberton Hotel's penthouse ballroom glittered like a jewelry box. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow light across marble floors, and every surface seemed to sparkle with holiday magic. The guest list read like a Forbes billionaire directory: tech moguls, real estate dynasties, oil heiresses, and pharmaceutical kings. This was my husband Marcus's world, and for 5 years, I'd played my role perfectly. I stood beside the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, wearing a custom Valentino gown worth more than most people's cars, deep emerald silk that hugged every curve and made my auburn hair look like liquid fire. Diamond earrings that Marcus had given me for our anniversary caught the light every time I turned my head. To everyone watching, I was the epitome of success. Beautiful, elegant, the perfect accessory to Marcus Blackwood's empire. Charlotte, darling. Patricia Wyndham air-kissed my cheeks, her Botox preventing any real expression. You look absolutely divine. That dress is stunning. Thank you, Patricia. Marcus chose it. I replied with the practiced smile I'd perfected over years of these events. Mini cliffhanger. If only she knew what I'd discovered about Marcus just hours earlier. Marcus appeared beside me like he always did at these functions, possessive hand on the small of my back, charming smile for the cameras, treating me like a prize he'd won rather than a partner he'd chosen. At 35, Marcus Blackwood was everything Manhattan society considered perfect. 6'2", silver at his temples, a jaw that belonged in magazine ads, and the kind of confidence that came from never hearing the word no. Gentlemen, Marcus announced to the circle of powerful men who'd gravitated toward us, let me introduce you to the secret behind my success, my beautiful wife, Charlotte. The men chuckled appreciatively while their wives smiled those tight, knowing smiles that said they'd all played this game before. Marcus is too modest, I said smoothly. He built Blackwood Industries all on his own. What I didn't say was that I'd been the one actually building it while he took the credit. Mini cliffhanger. But tonight, everything was about to change. The evening progressed exactly as these events always did. Marcus held court with potential investors while I charmed their wives, ensuring they'd pressure their husbands to do business with us. I'd perfected this dance. Strategic conversations about art collections, subtle mentions of exclusive vacation spots, carefully timed compliments that made everyone feel special and important. Charlotte has such a head for business, Margaret Rothschild confided to her circle of socialites. I heard she actually helps Marcus with strategy. I smiled demurely. I just listen and learn from the best. If only they knew I'd been doing far more than listening. Mini cliffhanger. Because 3 hours earlier, I'd uncovered a secret that would destroy everything. The revelation had come accidentally. Marcus had left his laptop open in our home office while rushing to get ready for the party. A Slack message notification popped up on his screen from someone named Scarlett with heart emojis. Against my better judgment, I clicked. What I found made my blood turn to ice. Months of messages, photos, video calls, plans for weekend getaways while I thought he was on business trips. But the worst part wasn't the affair. It was the conversation I found from just 2 days ago. Scarlett. When are you going to leave her? You promised after the holidays. Marcus. Soon, baby. Once I transfer the assets properly. Charlotte built half this company, so I need to be smart about protecting what's mine. She's brilliant but trusting. Won't see it coming. Scarlett, what if she fights the divorce? Marcus, she won't. I know exactly how to handle Charlotte. She's too proud to make a scene, too proper to air dirty laundry. I'll keep the business, the house, everything. She'll take whatever I offer and disappear quietly. Mini cliffhanger. That's when I realized Marcus had no idea who he was really dealing with. See, Marcus had made one crucial mistake. He assumed that because I played the perfect wife in public, that's all I was. He never bothered to investigate my background before we married, never looked too deeply into how a simple marketing consultant could help him build a $100 million empire in 5 years. Marcus thought Charlotte Blackwood was just a beautiful face with basic business sense. He had no idea that Charlotte Blackwood used to be Charlotte Sterling, the youngest VP in Goldman Sachs history, the woman who'd orchestrated 3 hostile takeovers before age 28, the strategic genius who'd been headhunted by every major firm on Wall Street. I'd left that world when I fell in love with Marcus, choosing to build something together rather than compete in separate arenas. But love, apparently, was a luxury I could no longer afford. Mini cliffhanger, so I did what any rational person would do. I started planning his destruction, standing in that ballroom, watching Marcus charm investors with strategies I'd developed, using connections I'd cultivated, presenting ideas I'd researched and refined. I felt something cold and calculating settle into my chest. "Excuse me," I whispered to the group. "I need to powder my nose." But instead of heading to the ladies' room, I slipped into the hotel's business center. In 15 minutes, I'd made 3 phone calls that would change everything. First, to Rebecca Martinez, my former colleague at Goldman Sachs who now ran the most ruthless investigative firm in Manhattan. "Rebecca? It's Charlotte. I need everything you can find on Marcus Blackwood's finances, business dealings, and personal life. Everything. Money is no object. Charlotte, I thought you were happily married to Mr. Perfect. Things change. How quickly can you work? For you, 48 hours. Mini cliffhanger. The second call would set Marcus's downfall in motion. Second call, David Kim, the SEC investigator who'd worked on several of my cases at Goldman Sachs. David, hypothetically speaking, if someone were using insider trading information and fraudulent tax documents to build a business empire, what kind of timeline would we be looking at for investigation? Charlotte, are we talking hypothetically, or should I be taking notes? Let's say, semi-hypothetically. If someone had solid evidence, we could move within 72 hours. Perfect. Third call, Amanda Pierce, the divorce attorney who'd earned the nickname, the Widowmaker, for how thoroughly she destroyed cheating husbands in court. Amanda, I need a consultation. Tomorrow morning. And I need you to prepare for war. Mini cliffhanger, but I wasn't done. The real show was about to begin. I returned to the party with my smile perfectly in place, but now it carried a different energy. Marcus was holding court near the bar, regaling a group of potential investors with the story of his brilliant business instincts. The secret to success, Marcus was saying, gesturing with his scotch, is knowing when to trust your gut and when to take calculated risks. That's how I built Blackwood Industries into what it is today. I approached the group with champagne in hand, my heels clicking against marble in a rhythm that somehow felt like a countdown. "Marcus, darling," I said sweetly, sliding my arm through his, "you're being modest again. Tell them about the Henderson merger, how you predicted that market shift." His chest puffed with pride. Well, it was really just understanding the fundamentals. What he didn't mention was that I'd spent 3 weeks analyzing Henderson's financials, identified their vulnerabilities, and crafted the entire acquisition strategy while he golfed in the Hamptons. Mini cliffhanger. That's when James Morrison made the comment that changed everything. James Morrison, heir to Morrison Steel and notorious for his bourbon-loosened tongue, raised his glass with a smirk. "Marcus, you're a lucky bastard. Beautiful wife, brilliant business mind. Though I have to ask, who really wears the pants in the Blackwood household?" The group chuckled, but there was an edge to the comment that made my skin crawl. "What do you mean, James?" I asked, my voice honey-sweet. "Oh, come on, Charlotte. Everyone knows you're the brains behind Blackwood Industries. Marcus here is just the pretty face." James's laugh was cruel. "Must be nice to have a wife who does all the thinking while you take all the credit." The circle fell silent. This was exactly the kind of public challenge Marcus's ego couldn't handle. Mini cliffhanger. And that's when my husband showed his true colors. Marcus's grip on my arm tightened painfully. His face flushed red with humiliation and rage. "James, you're drunk." "Am I wrong, though?" James pressed, clearly enjoying the discomfort he was causing. "Charlotte, tell us honestly, how much of Blackwood Industries is really your work?" I felt the shift in Marcus's energy before I saw it in his face. 5 years of marriage had taught me to recognize the signs of his temper, but never had I seen him this angry in public. "Charlotte doesn't run anything," Marcus said through gritted teeth. "She's my wife, not my business partner. She looks pretty and hosts dinner parties. That's it." The dismissal hit like a slap, but I kept my expression neutral. "Marcus, don't," he snapped, his voice carrying across the ballroom. "Don't even think about contradicting me right now." Mini cliffhanger. What happened next shocked everyone in that room. "Marcus," I said quietly, trying to de-escalate. "Maybe we should." The slap came so fast I barely saw his hand move. The sound echoed across the marble ballroom like a gunshot. My champagne glass shattered against the floor, crystal fragments sparkling like tears around my feet. 200 of Manhattan's elite went completely silent. The sting across my cheek was nothing compared to the humiliation burning through my chest. But as I stood there, hand pressed to my face, looking at the shocked expressions around me, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Because now, everyone in this room had just witnessed Marcus Blackwood's true character. "Don't you ever," Marcus hissed, his voice low and dangerous, "embarrass me like that again. You're my wife. Act like it." Mini cliffhanger. That's when I realized I held all the power. The ballroom remained frozen in horrified silence. Even James Morrison looked sobered by what he'd witnessed. I straightened slowly, smoothing my Valentino gown with hands that didn't shake. When I looked up, my smile was serene, almost grateful. "Thank you, Marcus," I said clearly, my voice carrying across the silent room. "You've just made this so much easier." Confusion flickered across his face. "Made what easier?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen, a video recording that had captured everything, including the slap. "Making sure everyone sees who you really are." The color drained from his face as he realized what I'd done. Mini cliffhanger. But the real surprise was what I did next. I turned to address the room full of Manhattan's most powerful people, people whose opinions could make or break reputations overnight. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, my voice steady and clear, "I want to apologize for the disruption to what was a lovely evening. As you can see, my husband has revealed his true character tonight." Marcus grabbed my arm. "Charlotte, stop. You're making a scene." "No, Marcus," I said, pulling away from his grip. "You made the scene. I'm just responding to it." I looked around the room at faces I'd charmed and cultivated for 5 years, allies I'd never realized I'd been building. "What you've witnessed tonight is, unfortunately, not unusual in our marriage. The difference is that tonight you all saw it too." Mini cliffhanger. And then I dropped the bomb that would destroy him forever. "I also want you all to know that as of tomorrow morning, I'll be filing for divorce and calling for a full SEC investigation into Blackwood Industries' business practices." Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Marcus went white as marble. "Charlotte, you can't." "I can, Marcus. And I will." I smiled at the crowd. "You see, contrary to what my husband just told you all, I didn't just help build Blackwood Industries. I have evidence that I built 90% of it. Every major deal, every strategic decision, every financial innovation, that was me." Patricia Wyndham stepped forward, her eyes bright with interest. Charlotte, dear, what exactly are you saying? I'm saying that Marcus has been committing fraud for 5 years, taking credit for work he didn't do, using insider information I gathered to manipulate stock prices, and filing false tax documents that I have copies of. Mini cliffhanger. But the best part was still coming. Marcus was panicking now, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. She's lying. She's emotional, upset. Am I? I pulled out a folder from my purse. Yes, my evening bag was large enough for legal documents because I'd planned this moment perfectly. These are copies of emails, financial records, and recorded conversations proving that Marcus Blackwood has been running a fraudulent operation while I did the actual work. James Morrison, suddenly sober, stepped closer. Charlotte, are you saying you can prove Marcus has been committing securities fraud? Not just securities fraud, I said sweetly. Tax evasion, insider trading, and misrepresentation to investors. Everything you need to know is in here. I handed copies of the documents to James, Patricia, and 3 other major investors in the room. Mini cliffhanger. That's when Marcus tried something desperate. Charlotte, please, Marcus said, his voice cracking with desperation. Can we discuss this privately? You're upset, I understand, but what, Marcus? But I should protect the man who just humiliated me in front of 200 people? The man who's been planning to divorce me and steal everything I built. His face went ashen. How did you know about Scarlett? I smiled. Marcus, I've known for months. I've been planning this moment for weeks. Tonight just gave me the perfect opportunity. The crowd was riveted now, phones discreetly recording what was becoming the scandal of the decade. Mini cliffhanger, and then I delivered the killing blow. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, I have an offer for anyone interested in legitimate business opportunities. I pulled out business cards with embossed lettering. Charlotte Sterling Consulting, Strategic Business Solutions. As of Monday morning, I'll be returning to my maiden name and opening my own firm. Any clients interested in working with the person who actually built Blackwood Industries are welcome to call me. The room erupted in whispers. 5 major investors immediately approached me for cards. Marcus was shaking now. Charlotte, you can't do this. The non-compete clause. The non-compete clause that you forged my signature on. I laughed. Marcus, that document won't hold up in court for 30 seconds. Mini cliffhanger, but what happened next surprised even me. Patricia Wyndham stepped forward, her eyes sharp with business interest. Charlotte, the Wyndham Foundation has been looking for new investment advisors. When can we schedule a meeting? Patricia, I'd be delighted. My calendar opens Monday morning. James Morrison was studying the documents I'd given him. Charlotte, if these numbers are accurate, you've been outperforming every major consulting firm in the city. That's correct, James. Imagine what I could do when I'm not being held back. Marcus made one last desperate attempt. Everyone, please. My wife is having some kind of breakdown. She's not thinking clearly. Actually, interrupted Dr. Sarah Chin, Manhattan's most respected psychiatrist who happened to be attending the party. Charlotte appears to be thinking more clearly than anyone else in this room. What we just witnessed was a textbook case of emotional and financial abuse. Mini cliffhanger. That's when the room turned completely against Marcus. Is that true, Charlotte? Asked Margaret Rothschild. Has Marcus been abusing you? I touched my still stinging cheek. What you saw tonight was mild compared to what happens behind closed doors. The entire room turned to look at Marcus with disgust. In Manhattan society, a man who hits his wife is lower than garbage, especially when that wife is clearly the brains behind his success. Marcus, said William Pemberton, heir to the Hotel Empire and tonight's host, I think you should leave. Now. This is ridiculous, Marcus exploded. She's manipulating all of you. Charlotte is nothing without me. That's when I played my final card. Mini cliffhanger. The revelation that would end him forever. Actually, Marcus, there's one more thing everyone should know. I smiled sweetly at my soon-to-be ex-husband. The reason I'm so confident about leaving you isn't just because I can rebuild what we created together. I paused for maximum effect. It's because I never actually needed you to begin with. You see, before I met Marcus, I was Charlotte Sterling, the youngest VP in Goldman Sachs history, the woman who orchestrated the Morrison-Chin merger, the strategist behind the Pemberton Hotel expansion, and the financial architect who saved Wyndham Industries from bankruptcy. The room went dead silent as the implications sank in. Patricia gasped. "You're the Charlotte Sterling? The one who saved our company." William Pemberton stepped forward. "Charlotte Sterling, you revolutionized our entire business model." Mini cliffhanger. And then came the moment that broke Marcus completely. "Wait," James Morrison said slowly. "If you're Charlotte Sterling, then that means..." "That means," I finished, "that every major success in this room tonight can be traced back to my work." Marcus didn't marry a pretty wife who got lucky in business. He married the most successful strategic consultant of our generation and convinced her to work anonymously behind his name. The room erupted in stunned conversation. Suddenly, every major player at the party was looking at me with new eyes, not as Marcus's accessory, but as the power behind Manhattan's biggest financial successes. Marcus stood there, speechless, as his entire world crumbled around him. "You're all making a huge mistake," he said desperately. "Charlotte is lying. She's the woman who made us all millions of dollars," interrupted Patricia Wyndham. "While you took credit for her brilliance." Mini cliffhanger, but I wasn't finished destroying him yet. "There's one more thing," I announced to the captivated crowd. "Marcus has been so concerned with protecting his assets and our divorce, but there's something he doesn't know." I pulled out my phone and showed the screen to the room. 2 hours ago, I liquidated my personal investment portfolio, the one Marcus never bothered to ask about because he assumed I had no money of my own. The number on the screen made several people gasp. $57 million, I said clearly. My personal wealth, accumulated over 15 years of strategic investing, completely separate from anything Marcus and I built together. Marcus's knees nearly buckled. "That's impossible." "It's very possible when you're actually good at what you do," I replied. "While you were taking credit for my business strategies, I was quietly building my own empire." Mini cliffhanger. The final humiliation was about to begin. "So here's what's going to happen," I announced to the room. "Marcus will face SEC investigation for securities fraud. Blackwood Industries will likely be dissolved. Any legitimate clients who want to continue working with the actual brains behind their success can contact Charlotte Sterling Consulting starting Monday." I turned to Marcus, who is now visibly trembling. "And Marcus, since you're so concerned about protecting your assets, you should know that I've already filed an injunction freezing all Blackwood Industries accounts pending investigation. Everything you thought was yours? It's locked down until we can determine what percentage of it was built through fraud." The room was riveted. This was better than any soap opera. Mini cliffhanger. And then Marcus did something that surprised everyone. Marcus dropped to his knees right there on the marble ballroom floor. "Charlotte, please," he begged, tears actually streaming down his face.
"I'm sorry."
"I'm so sorry. Don't do this. We can work it out. I'll give you credit. I'll make you a partner. You'll what, Marcus? Stop hitting me? Stop cheating on me? Stop stealing credit for my work." I looked down at him with genuine pity. It's too late for apologies. The sight of Marcus Blackwood, Manhattan's golden boy, sobbing on his knees in front of 200 witnesses was more satisfying than any revenge fantasy I'd ever imagined. "Please," he whispered. "I love you. Don't destroy everything we built." Mini cliffhanger. My response silenced the entire room. "Marcus," I said softly, kneeling down to meet his eyes, "you didn't love me. You loved what I could do for you. There's a difference." I stood gracefully, smoothing my gown one final time. "And you're wrong about one thing. We didn't build anything together. I built it. You just put your name on it." I turned to address the room one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for witnessing this evening's revelations. I hope you'll consider this an invitation to build something real together, based on honesty rather than deception. The final twist that no one saw coming. As I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking confidently across the marble, Patricia Wyndham called out, "Charlotte, wait." I turned back to see her approaching with a determined expression. "The Wyndham Foundation isn't just looking for an investment advisor," she said clearly, ensuring everyone could hear. "We're looking for a new board chair. Someone with integrity, brilliance, and the courage to stand up for what's right." She extended her hand. "The position comes with a $2 million annual salary and complete autonomy over a $50 million investment portfolio. Interested?" The room held its breath. I smiled, the first genuinely happy smile I'd worn all evening. "Patricia, I'd be honored." As we shook hands, sealing the deal that would make me one of the most powerful women in Manhattan finance, I heard Marcus behind me let out a broken sob. But I didn't turn around. I was done looking backward. Epilogue: 3 months later, the penthouse office overlooking Central Park is everything I never knew I wanted. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a view that stretches for miles, and a desk where I make decisions that affect millions of dollars daily. Charlotte Sterling Consulting has grown from a vengeful impulse into Manhattan's most sought-after strategic firm. Marcus was arrested 2 weeks after the Christmas party. The SEC investigation found evidence of fraud stretching back to before we even met, which means his entire relationship with me was likely calculated from the beginning. He's currently awaiting trial and facing 15 years in federal prison. But the real victory isn't his downfall, it's what I've built in its place. This morning, Forbes called to schedule a cover story interview. The title? Charlotte Sterling, the strategic genius who rebuilt her empire from the ashes of betrayal. And every morning when I walk into this office, I remember that Christmas Eve moment when Marcus's hand connected with my face. Not because it hurt, but because it was the moment I stopped pretending to be small enough for his ego. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone else's life. It's finally building the life you were always meant to have.